Hello, I'm State Representative Mark Gillen, and welcome to Legislative Report. As you can see behind me here, we have ViWinco custom-built windows and patio doors. And that's the factory that we're going to be touring in the district today. David Barnes, the Executive CEO, President, in fact, founder of ViWinco, is going to lead us on that tour right behind me. Joining me today at ViWinco Vinyl Windows is the President and CEO, David Barnes. Dave, thank you for leading us on a tour. Tell us a little bit about the history of the company. How did it start? 1983, I understand?
1982, we started with six
okay.
people building windows around a table. We started making replacement windows, and they're all made out of vinyl. And then in the 90s, new construction windows started to become more popular with vinyl, so we got into the product then. And in the late 90s, we got into hurricane windows. Because of our location to the Mid-Atlantic region, it made sense. So we actually make the glass and we deliver hurricane windows as well. We've expanded down into the Florida market. We're also as far west as St. Louis and Peoria, Illinois. Our business model is our customers will place an order, we'll build it to size and deliver it on their next truck. And so they'll get it based on when their cutoff is, either in a week or 2 weeks they get the windows. And we've been doing this for 33 years now, and we've expanded. At one point we were at 365 employees. As of today, right now, we're at 252.
We're standing in southern Berks County in Convection Township. Morgantown
This
is
is the home of the hurricane window, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, and Berks County.
Does that strike anybody as odd? You know, here you are in Berks County and you're delivering a product which could be efficacious conceivably in North Carolina, Florida, coastal?
People don't really care where the product comes from. They just want a quality product and delivered on time. We've been successful in doing that. And so our volume continues to grow in that market. As the economy has come back around, people are building again at the shores, and so we've done very well with that product. The fact that we're here in Berks County is because we're located right next to the turnpike, and based on our shipping routes, we wanted to be close, to the interstates.
I travel the turnpike a great deal. Back and forth to Harrisburg.
I see blue trucks, don't you?
I see your trucks on the turnpike, in fact. We hear a lot more about superstorms, hurricanes, damaging winds, rains, and so on. How much of an influence is that on the demand for your product? People want something that's real strong, reinforced.
Well, the building codes have gotten stronger in the last few years, even prior to some of the superstorm Sandy and those types of hurricanes. But it really is kind of driven by the insurance industry because, when the houses blow down, they obviously have, major losses. But the Institute for Business and Home Safety is a nonprofit, and it's funded by the insurance agency, and they've come up with fortified standards that get people certain reductions in insurance rates, specifically wind and hail. So the building practices of tying the roof deck all the way down to the foundation are starting to be put in place in a lot of these areas that have high velocity wind zones.
I was at the New Jersey shore recently, and I saw some construction going on. I have to admit that my degree was in health and physical education. Okay. My master's was in social studies, so I wasn't looking with a trained eye. But I saw a lot more care going in because I was familiar with your product and what you're doing. And I can't say for sure they were your windows going in. But it seemed like a lot more attention and care was given to the structure around the window as well. So you're needing to tie in with that, so you've got to do some superior engineering to accommodate the new codes.
Yes, you need, the whole idea behind the hurricane windows is to keep the building envelope intact so that if there's a void in it, the pressure builds up and then the house explodes. So by tying the roof deck down, the roof can't fly off. The walls have become stronger, and the way that they install the windows now, in some cases, they might require more fasteners based on the location of where the house is being built.
How do you keep your expenses and costs in check? You have to be compliant with the codes, the insurance industry mandates, and so on. It's got to cost more. And so in terms of your product, how do you keep that cost down?
Well, it's very tough. We have to do that through efficiencies and obviously, you know, kind of watch what goes on with labor since we're custom made. I can't tell you what we're building 3 weeks from today because it hasn't been ordered yet. It'll be ordered next week.
Right.
So it's a challenging situation to kind of balance it out. But we have some mixed model lines which will give a little bit more volume to a line that normally would just be sitting idle if it was only a dedicated product line. The challenges are great. I mean, we're under so much compliance between certifying the windows, which, you know, legally we have to do. We're involved with safety glazing, either in tempering glass or laminating glass. And there's a lot of you know, procedures that we have to go through just because of that. The rest of the compliance, you know, is all the business challenges that everybody's faced with. Manufacturing is not an easy business to be in today's world, and obviously, you know, the expenses keep going up. And over the downturn, it was tough to raise prices because everybody was in a competitive situation, and they were trying to get as much market share as they could at that point. So I'm just a little guy. Some of these big national companies are always, you know, chomping at the bit, but we cater to the custom home builder where the guy's name is on the sign out front, and he appreciates the quality and the service, and he's obviously looking for specific product performance. We also do get into some of the manufactured housing where they're building in those zones where they need, you know, certain impact products, and we notice that that's becoming more prevalent after Sandy, specifically in New Jersey. But we do a tremendous job down in through the Carolinas and all the way down into Florida now.
Right. We're in a room where a number of your products are displayed, and I see sliding doors as well as windows. Since we have some right behind us, could you share something about the ViWinco S-Series over here? I see Builder's Choice.
Well, we've got two replacement lines over here. These are our basic replacement windows. This is our bread and butter for the masses. This is our high-end replacement window, which is also built off the same platform as our S-Series new construction window. And then when you get over here into the hurricane windows, the difference that really separates the three different models would be obviously the glass package. This has laminated glass, and some of the hardware that is used to tie the sash into the frame and also down at the sill. They're designed to take higher wind loads and a higher DP rating, which is design pressure.
This is impact resistance. There has to be a certain threshold of tolerance, I'm gathering.
Yes, when we test these, we shoot a 2x4 at 50 feet per second. We actually break the window, and then for a 6-hour period after that, we will cycle it 9,000 times. 4,500 times with positive pressure, simulating the hurricane coming at the building envelope, and then also 4,500 cycles of negative pressure. On the back side of the house, the hurricane pressure wants to suck the window out of the opening. So not only do we have to design stuff to be hit one way, we have to be designed to hit the other way.
Both sides.
Now they will crack and break, but the laminated glass is like the windshield in your car. So it'll stay intact, and that's the whole goal, is to keep that building envelope intact so that it doesn't explode from pressure.
On the other side of the room here, there's a distinctive product line. It appears big screen
That's
footprint.
a casement window, and this one opens up hinged like a door. And in this case, somebody had wanted to simulate the look of a double hung, maybe a Cape Cod in the dormer where they needed all the egress for the firemen, but they wanted the look of the house. This also has extension jambs on the product, so when the builder utilizes our product, they put it in. We've brought it all the way to the interior of the house, and then they will trim it on the inside.
Some things change and some things stay the same, because my window's designed just like that, and I'm pretty confident it's probably 30 or 40 years old, and the crank works just fine.
Yeah, most windows designs and styles have stayed the same. Europeans have a tilt and turn, which tilts in, or it opens like a doorway inside. Those products haven't really been that successful yet in the United States. They've been trying to get them in here since the 90s. But all the American products pretty much are the same. You have casements, you have sliding windows, you have awnings that open up from the bottom. patio doors, single hungs and double hungs.
If we could take just a moment before we wrap up here, patio door, talk to us a little bit about the same reinforcement principles you shared over here.
It's a strong door, and we've got a nice wide rail on it, so we're able to reinforce that from the inside. The only difference between this and a hurricane door would be the laminated glass package. Instead of just a tempered glass package, we would have laminated on the exterior, on the interior, and a tempered on the outside. They would also add 2 additional brackets on the operating panel, so when you hit the door with the pressure of the 2x4, that the weakest point is going to be where the sashes meet. And so we put a reinforcement bracket on that.
Well, if you have a few moments, we'll head to the factory floor and we'll see some production.
Show you how it's put together.
David, there's a lot of equipment, a lot of noise activity here, and also a lot of technology. Got some expensive pieces of equipment on either side of us. Tell us what's going on.
Well, this piece of equipment over here is for geometric bending, and the product is a half round is the shape that they're making right now. And what we did was we heated the vinyl up to about 300 degrees to get it soft and pliable, and then we put it in this form that was already predetermined by the computer based on what size this window needs to be. They will then put it in place, and then they bring a reinforcement in at the end to wrap around and hold it. But as you can see, this shape right here has already been bent. And then what they will do is mark the center line at the top of the horseshoe and then figure the angles with the computer as to what angle needs to be cut off the bottom there. They'll then take that up, have it cut, and then they will take another piece and weld it, and they will make basically a half-round window.
There's always been technology employed in manufacturing. It seems like this takes it to another level with regard to the skill set that's involved.
Well, we're custom building every product with a license plate. Every window in here has been ordered. There's no inventory, there's no stock sizes. The architects might use a specific size in the design, but everything is made to order. So the computer gives us the ability to obviously do quicker turnaround and more accuracy when we're bending or building geometric shapes.
There's no such thing as almost fits. It has to be precise. It has to be accurate.
We are building it to the opening that has been given to us, basically.
Now, over to my left here.
This is the clean room. This is actually where we build the hurricane glass. We'll come back when this shift starts running, but this is where they will laminate a polyvinyl butyl in between 2 pieces of glass, which then essentially gives you the windshield of the impact window.
So the window can crack, but it's not going to shatter into a million pieces and injure somebody?
We'll use a little tempered piece on the outside, which will give you little pieces when it's broken, but the inside will crack but not penetrate the building envelope.
I heard you mention earlier when we had a discussion about this oven back here, and I know it's going to open shortly because you have a product you're preparing.
Yeah, it's a convection oven, and it's running at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
And I think of this factory operation, I think of energy. And I know you're utilizing some alternative energy sources here.
Well, we obviously use a lot of electric and compressed air in our manufacturing process. But a few years ago, the guy who owns the property behind us put in a solar field. And it's a 2 megawatt field. There's 7,819 panels back there. And it's supplying us with about 40% of our electric. We're a big user, but it's ironic that the sun is giving us the energy to help save the energy for the homeowners in their houses.
Sounds a little bit like the sound of my microwave when my daughters are done cooking something, maybe slightly different. What's done cooking over here?
All right, this is a shape that's going to be turned into a half round. It's been filled with foam on the inside for structure so that the internal walls don't crush. Willie and Adam here are going to put in a piece that reinforces where the glazing bead's going to go, because the glass is going to sit back in this area, and then we'll have a decorative piece in that area. But we don't want that channel to crush, because you'll see when they pull it out how pliable the vinyl is.
What's the actual temperature of the vinyl right now?
That's at Probably in the low 200s, maybe the high 100s at this point.
So it's imperative that they get that thing out and lined up quickly.
Yes. And then they're going to bring it around to the shape that was already predetermined by the computer. Then they're going to bring down the top and hold it in place. And then all these fingers are going to hold the outside reinforcement up against the product until it cools. And they will let this sit and cool for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then we'll be able to bring the horseshoe out and take it down the production line.
And this is for a horseshoe window?
This would be for a half-round window.
You indicated to me earlier you got several hundred employees. Is there a cross-pollinating of skill sets here? These guys know what they're doing here.
Absolutely, they're cross-trained in different departments, and based on what our volume requirements are in different production lines, sometimes these guys will work in a different department once they've completed what they need to do here. Or if we need more bodies here, we might bring somebody over. This is probably the most hands-on craftsmanship in our production line, because these are all custom sized and not just regulars that we would be churning out, you know, a couple thousand a day.
We're going to head down the hallway here in a minute, but you've got several hundred employees on 3 shifts, 2 shifts.
Well, the building's open 24 hours a day, and some things get turned on earlier. We have to have some material at the beginning of the production line before production starts that day. So some cutting operations are in here earlier. Obviously the tempering and the laminated equipment, they're all heat users, so they have to be turned on early before we start using the product or the machinery. We run a full shift of about 150 or so workers. We've got a second shift going, and third shift will be started up here in one of the departments because of the demand of some of the things we're doing now.
Well, let's take a look and see what they're doing at the other side of the manufacturing plant. A few moments ago, I saw the computer cutting this glass here. It's a fascinating piece of equipment. This technology amazes me. Lead us into this.
Well, what it's going to do is we're bringing these 72-inch by 84-inch sheets of glass. We drop them onto a table. They come in here. It's like an air hockey table with air blowing up. In the center of the table, the air goes off, and now the computer's determining the orientation of how that glass is actually sitting on there. It's going to come in now with this piece of equipment which is called an edge deleter, and it's going to remove the low E coating, which is a silver oxide, from all 4 sides of each piece that's going to be cut. Now the cutter's coming in here, scoring right down between those lines, so that when the operator at the other end breaks these apart, all 4 sides will have that silver layer removed. So when we glue this to the spacer, we're gluing it to the glass itself and not the coating that's on the glass. Because we don't want any oxidation coming in from the edge. It'll just turn it dark like an old mirror.
Just as an aside, this piece of machinery is unique. Who maintains it? How often does it need to go down?
Well, it's maintained on a daily basis. If it does go down, we've got mechanics here that have to take care of it. But the equipment was built in Ohio. So a lot of the equipment that we use here is built in either Pennsylvania or Ohio. And that way, if we really were in a bind, we can bring their technicians in just as quick for overnight parts and so on.
We're moving large panes of glass around here. Safety obviously is a preeminent concern in this factory. The potential for injury exists.
It does, and the equipment that the guys wear avoids some lacerations and those types of things. Believe it or not, probably the most accidents we have are where people are walking around on the sharp points of vinyl, more so than the sharp glass. And we get into tempering and laminated glass. We actually polish the edge of the glass so for functional reasons. So we don't normally get cuts in that area at all.
Your trucks are headed down the road. They're carrying lots of fragile material. They're well packed. Certainly the shipping division is critical in this operation.
That's another one that's very important, and we own all our trucks. All the drivers are my employees. We don't sub it out to logistics people, which might be a little more efficient from employee side, but we want to control that source because we backhaul raw materials into the building so that we know where our inventory is during the flow process of the supplier in through the production facility and then out our shipping doors at that end. And if we were wondering where a load is, we can pick up the phone and call our own employee.
There's a lot to see here. Let's head across the factory floor. We're surrounded by equipment. Seems like a production line that we're standing in the middle of. Walk us through what's happening here.
Well, the lady over here is roll forming grids that are the muttons that go inside the insulated glass unit, but it gives you the look of a colonial house. Where it used to be made with small panes of glass, these grids will separate your viewing area to give you a smaller light of glass, but it's all really just done for aesthetics from your curb, looking at the building. The gentleman over here, he's actually taking spacers, and it's one solid piece of metal roll formed, and it'll fold into itself to make the rectangle. It is having a sealant applied on the outside, which will glue it to the two pieces of glass, and down in the center there's a desiccant, which is a moisture absorber. So when you trap the moisture in on today where there's a little bit of humidity in the air, it'll suck that into the desiccant so that you got a clean viewing area. As he roll forms those, he will put them up onto the conveyor. They're going to come over in an orderly fashion to the two operators here that are going to apply the glass and the spacer together and then run them down the line.
You've got to have a workforce that's familiar with being around technology. Everywhere I walk in this factory, there's a certain amount of expertise that's required. Holding on to your employees is important. I think you said your retention is at a very high rate.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. We have a number of 25, a number of 20 years, and a lot of 15-year employees that have made careers here. We've tried to be a good employer with a lot of things. We try to offer all the benefits that we can possibly offer. It gets challenging as all the expenses of insurances go up every year, and face it, a lot of us are working for health insurance anymore, and we're working longer. We have a couple 30-year employees. The first employee of the company is still with us and is the general manager of the company. But you know, it's something that is hard to train people in the busy time, and it's a skill. It's a production line, and some people are suited for production lines. Some people are suited behind the desk. Right. Personally, I don't like sitting still, so I'm not a very good desk guy. But it's challenging because everything is different. Every day is different. And sometimes equipment goes down and we have to kind of move people around and get it back up and then come back over and try to balance it. It's hard to balance a production that's custom made and is being delivered in a short time frame.
Well, from the perspective of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we're certainly delighted to have manufacturing vigorously operating in the southern end of this district. So much of it you hear going south of the border or offshore.
Yeah, and in our business, because of location, it's kind of tough to take it to China or somewhere like that. The West Coast would have a tougher time competing against them. But it's funny because manufacturing is still alive. You just don't hear and see about it, and we only hear the negative stuff that goes on.
Well, it's a delight for me to see it and hear it as well, and we got another final station you want to take us to.
Yep.
Let's go for it.
All right. The two pieces of glass on the left side of the table are going to be put to those two pieces. They're going to be lined up in the butterfly table, and then when they come out, they're then going to go past us and go into the oven. The sealant was put on at a low temperature. So now that when we run it down into the oven, we're going to heat the sealant up. And then it goes to the second half of the oven. We're going to squish that down. We're running 15/16 insulated glass right now. There's a hole in the spacer, so we'll let that equalize and let the hot air get out. And then we will fill that space with an argon gas, which will give more energy efficiency to the product line to slow that heat transformation through the insulated glass unit. Here we are at the end of the sash line, the frames have been welded, and the machine behind you puts the glazing material that will glue the insulated glass unit into the sash frame. These are double hungs that go up and down. We've got a clay set of windows. We also have a brown window on the table. And we will fusion weld those frames together, apply the hardware, and then once we have dropped the glass in, then we will then put these into the frame of the window and then package it. You can see the labels on the side. There's your license plate for the window, and that tells the homeowner don't remove, because that's the warranty information. If you were to have an issue with the window, that license plate right there could tell us what balance system, what size glass, whether it had grids in it. Those types of things are important. You know, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, if there were an issue, we can take care of it, or if they drop it off the truck next week at the job site.
It's a perfect location. It's protected. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And we have to put that protective label on there for that. If you look over in this area, these guys are handling a brown exterior product, and they've got a sash glazing bead that's being put in, which helps the water run off. And then once that sash is then put into the frame, they'll run that through the packaging line.
I see people with hammers, I see lots of moving equipment and parts, but I don't see anything getting broken here. Folks know what they're doing, they know what their tasks are in this plant.
Well, and a lot of times the hammers are just putting things in place because the design is allowing a pressure fit. So we've glued the glass into that. We need a nice cosmetic look for the outside, so that glazing bead is designed to be pounded into place. Also, if we ever had to remove the glass, with a putty knife you can pull that out, change the glass, and then reuse that part to put it back together again.
You obviously love what you're doing here, and I just got finished talking with an employee who's been here 20 years today. Your employees are satisfied with the work that they're doing. They're obviously pleased that they're putting a product out into homes. It's important for homeowners. It's important for the community. It's especially important for people on the coastal areas which need reinforced products.
Well, I would say this, it's work. I do like what I do, and I think a lot of people out here do like what they've done for all these years. And we've been doing it so long that the relationships that get built here are beyond during the punching in and out of the clock. And you know, you could say it's a family, but it's really a group of people that have been doing this so long that they take pride in what they do. And people really do take pride in it. And I know we are one of the better manufacturing countries in the world and have probably the best workforce. It's just challenging when everybody keeps cutting price and their government subsidizes some of the stuff that compete with our things in the United States, not necessarily the windows.
Thank you for investing in lives, and thank you for investing in homes in our community. And I'm sure I'm going to remember this tour for a long time. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. And you ever want to come back and make a window, be my guest.
Thank you for joining us today with our legislative report. If you have any questions dealing with legislation, state-related items, please feel free to contact our office. At the close of this program, that information will appear on your screen.